G'day guys. I'm a little bit tired, happy tired. Don't know if you ever feel that way where you feel like you've just had such a big week and everything's gone okay and you get to Friday and you're just really ready to put the feet up. I didn't sleep really well last night. Well, it took me a while to get to sleep. But what a win. What a win. I must admit I was blown away with that performance by our boys. Really blown away. And yeah, I'll say I didn't think it would pan out that way. Not necessarily not winning the game, but the manner, the way in which it was won. I think it's probably our most complete performance under Michael Voss. Maybe not the best win. We won some big finals last year and you don't have to go back to round one against the Brisbane Lions and how incredible that win was, given how poorly we started in that game. But this to me, I don't know. It just, I'm after proof with this. I'm continually after proof with this football team, and I don't necessarily want to continually question them. What I try and like to do, and I cop a little bit of heat, which is okay, about being a little bit glass half empty and being negative even in wins. But this was the perfect performance by our team. And I know they'll go away and they'll look at the areas that they'll need to improve on. And there's certainly, areas that we need to get better at. But I think every team is in the same situation. But I'm not here to criticise this win at all. It was so good. It was so good and it surprised me. It surprised me, the manner in which we won. And I know a lot's going to be said about that, the last quarter jaw-dropping onslaught, which was just magnificent to watch. But we're capable of doing that. We're capable when we're on and we dominate out of the middle and we dominate stoppages. And what did we kick? 7 goals, 1 stoppage goals in that last quarter. It was a sight to behold. Everyone was getting on the end of goals. Cripper, what a last quarter, and 2 big goals to start that last quarter, and Williams and Harry and Chincotta scored. I mean, Akers' goal was probably my favourite in that last quarter. Just came. I know it was a really poor turnover by Port. But Akers' goal from 35 out on a slight angle, he's not the greatest kick, but he's become, like Cottrell, somewhat of a clutch player for us. But it just pierced the middle. It came right when we needed it. Just a steadying goal, take 30 seconds off the clock and put the game to bed. But we've scored heavily. We can score heavily. And we showed in that last quarter that we can go to another level. And and what I like to try and do is try and look at our team with the lens of an opposition supporter. And if I'm watching that and I'm an opposition fan watching that, I'm going, fuck, this is a seriously good football team. And I think last night, if I was an opposition fan watching that game, I would have been as much impressed with the first 3 quarters of that game from our point of view than just the last, because we know this team of ours can score. It can score very, very quickly when we dominate out of the middle. But I liked the first 3 quarters as much as I did the last. And I know that might surprise a few people, but we just couldn't get the game really on our terms, really, for the first 3 quarters. I know they scored the first goal, And then we responded, which was good, particularly with TDK, and it was a great kick from the boundary line, and I thought his energy was really good. His energy, I think, for me, throughout the whole night, I think he was probably our best player. He's just been incredible since he's, gone back into that position last week against Wits and this week against Soldo. Probably bigger bodies, a bit more experienced, but he's just been incredible, and I thought he was superb again last night. But the game was a bit of an arm wrestle. They got on top in the second quarter. They probably should have been in front. That wasn't necessarily going to concern me. Really, I felt it was like going to be one of those sort of nights that it was going to be close all the way. And then we got on top in that third after they hit the front, and we just gradually, our midfield adjusted. Cincotta was superb, particularly after half-time on Butters, and he started to have a bit of an impact offensively rather than just being a pure tagger. He started to win his own ball. No, not big ball, but he had 7 last week playing on Miller. Last night he took it to another level and took 13, and he looked like a player that could take the next step into that midfield, not just be, a lockdown type player. And yeah, we scored in different ways in the first 3 quarters. We couldn't really score from clearances and stoppages because Port just had the upper hand. And the big criticism of me on this team of ours has been our ability to score when things aren't going our way. But we kept the scoreboard ticking over. We pretty much led at every change. It was even at quarter time. We led by 3, then 7 at 3/4 time, and we just always had the answers. We were always able to either score goals from turnover or from transition, which, yeah, it's been a bugbear of mine when things aren't going our way. In these pressure cooking games, when the pressure is high, playing on a ground which has become such a hoodoo for us, although we did beat Fremantle there and gather around, to not necessarily hang in there, but just to have the answers, to be able to, get to 3/4 time and go, okay, we're going to take this game up a notch. Our leaders are really going to step up. We're going to take control of this game because it's fucking really important for us that we do it and not just have this be a nail biter. We really want to take control and to see what we're able to do, to kick those goals, those 8 goals in the last quarter. And it wasn't like Port didn't have some opportunities in that last quarter. It was almost like we kicked 2 goals, then they kick 1, then we kick 2 goals, they kick another 1. It was sort of back and forward just for a period of time. But for the last 7 or 8 minutes, we were just superb in regards to icing that game and just knowing when to go quickly, when to go a little bit slower, really steady and mature heads. And it was, it's I've got to admit, guys, it's got me really thinking about this group now. And I knew there was some real grit and determination. And Voss talks about this as being another signature win. I think that was mostly on the back of winning in Adelaide against an Adelaide team, a ground that, it's been awful for us. But he also said it's the evolution of this team. It's a transformation of this team over a 2 to 3 year period. And the more I think about it, we must have been, a real basket case before Michael Voss arrived. And he mentioned not just an evolution of the football team, the group that he coaches, but also the evolution of the football club. And full credit must go to him. I think he's starting to show some real nous with his coaching group in regards to changing things up and, like the move of Williams forward and mentioned Cincotta and even the trust in Cowan and Kemp, who are growing week by week, particularly Brody Kemp. Just the selfless roles of the role players like Fogarty really come on under Michael Voss, and it's got me thinking, guys. We're in it, like we are right in it, in a really tough, uncompromising competition where it just feels like we've had such a tough run, both with injuries and also how difficult our fixture has been, the way it has fallen, and we've got another tough game coming up against Essendon. But Jesus Christ, that was a win of substance, like as I like to call it, but it was more than substance. This was a really well balanced performance based on being able to score when things weren't going our way around the midfield, so we could score on turnover and transition. And then when we got really our one wood, which is that the brutality of a midfield that when they get going is impossible to stop. That's when we really got the reward on the scoreboard. So I used to talk about we're either all duck and no dinner, which was the clearance game. It now feels like we're starting to find a better balance, and that was shown last night when the game we needed to stay in the game. We were able to do that because we can keep the scoreboard ticking over against a fucking really good side. And I know a lot of people will say, yeah, they shit the bed. Another typical Port Adelaide performance on the big stage. But geez, they look dangerous. Jason Horne-Francis, and they looked like they were going to, at times, break that game open. But, yeah, we just always had the answers all night, and I couldn't be happier. So let's have a look at the players. And I'd be interested to know your thoughts. I really would. So I'll go through, as I usually do, guys, with the players from an individual point of view. But I thought it was obviously a really good team performance. You don't win by 36 points, 6 goals on the road, in a big game. Now top 4, that probably won't stay that way over the course of the weekend. But keeping in touch with that top 4, and yeah, it's just magnificent. Blake Acres, great last quarter. I think he started the game really well and then drifted out. It felt like the game was played, not on his side of the ground for large periods, but when he needed to stand up in that last quarter. And yeah, felt his ball use was really good late in that game. Really smart decisions, really mature game, really important game for us. Such a warrior. Like he just almost bleeds for his teammates, and it shines through in everything he does. Jordan Boyd, I was really critical in that last quarter. I think we kicked the first 2 or 3 goals, or we put a bit of a lead on them, and our defenders had pressed really high up the ground, and Jordan Boyd went up too early for a spoil or a mark. He was in front, and the ball got out the back, and they scored really easy. I was really savage on him for that. But it was a really solid defensive effort last night by Jordan Boyd, and I think late in the game and in that third quarter as well, his kick, he didn't have a handball. He had 13 kicks, and most of those would have hit the target. He's a beautiful user by foot. He just changes the angles, he changes the way we can play from our back half. So, yeah, I thought it was a reasonable game by Jordan Boyd. Can't comment on Jack Carroll. I thought Fantasia went off earlier in that last quarter, and Carroll, it just was strange. It felt like he didn't even come on at all, but he had one kick. I can't even remember what that kick was. Spoke already about Cincotta's job on Butters. Butters had a few little moments here or there. He's always going to win the ball. It was funny watching the telecast, and I think it was Aaron Phillips interviewed Ken Hinkley at halftime, and noticed that Chincotta had gone to Butters, and she asked the question of Ken Hinkley, and he said something along the lines of our advice to Butters. It was a little bit arrogant, actually. It was just to blow him out of the water, just run him off his feet. I think you can underestimate someone like Alex Chincotta. He's not a kid. He's a 25, 26-year-old who's just a beast, and he's done it the hard way. And, obviously Butters is a more talented footballer, but, fuck. It was probably a little bit disrespectful to think that he was just going to run him off his feet because he didn't stop the whole night. To see him get that reward on the scoreboard late was just sort of icing on the cake. Great game. Cowan, interesting night. It was really hard to spot who is actually responsible for it. I didn't feel like their smalls had big nights. Darcy Byrne-Jones was really quiet. I mentioned Mead was good, but he mostly played in the midfield. He defended quite well, didn't win a lot of the ball, but it was a solid night without being sort of in the action. Cripps, huge last quarter. I mean, just captain's game. 467 metres gain. His kicking's good this year. He seems to be making really good decisions by foot. But hitting the scoreboard at those clutch moments was, just fantastic. A great tussle, Charlie Curnow and Ratugolea. I like the game of Ratugolea. I think he's really strong in the air, but Charlie just made the most out of nothing. A couple of really good grabs. That goal in the third quarter, really important goal on the boundary line on his left foot. Tough night for forwards. Always going to be tough nights in those types of games. But to kick three, to have an impact like he did, 7 marks, he's had a fairly big impact on this game. Already mentioned Tom De Koning. He's taking his game to another level, and going to be a great test for him against Todd Goldstein next week, the veteran. Similar type sort of players in regards to their mobility, although Goldstein's a little bit older, a lot older, but they're both left-footers. And, he probably... the thing I'm loving about De Koning is he's embracing the challenge. Not just the challenge of playing against the best ruckman, but embracing the opportunity to lead this midfield and to lead this group. He's just grown enormously, and I just feel like he's sort of, when Pitnet plays, he's just sort of wasted. He's wasted. His energy he provides around the ground is wasted in the front half. Fantasia, it was quiet. I mean, he wasn't horrible. Wasn't horrible, but I still feel like our small forwards is probably still a bit of a weakness, and a weakness in impacting the scoreboard. It wasn't great. Subbed off. Fogarty, great last quarter. Oh, fucking hell, he's a terrier, isn't he? This kid, he's a bloody terrier, and I probably wasn't as quick to jump on board in how important he is to this football team, but Voss is defined the role for him. The reason why he's in this football team is defensive acts and defensive pressures. And he's not an awful footballer either. He's actually came through the system quite talented, but he's a hard nut and a desperate hard nut. And it's finally great to get a player from Geelong who's actually been serviceable for us. Hewitt, I think Horne-Francis was damaging for the whole night, and I was sort of thankful he went forward late in the game, because he was always threatening around the midfield. He's a fucking super player, Jason Horne-Francis, and he had his hands full, Hewitt, but still got busy at times in that last quarter. Never stopped trying. Elijah Hollands had some beautiful moments in the third quarter when we got on top. Oof. Some of his work was just elite. I really like him. It's going to be interesting over the next, say, 2 or 3 years to see if he can really take his game to the next level. At the moment, he's just playing a role, a little bit through the midfield, across half forward. Can he take it? Can he become an A-grader? Is probably the question I ask of Elijah Hollands, but he's just doing some really smart, important things for us. He did that again last night. Yeah, his brother was okay, probably a little bit quieter, but I loved his defensive pressure last night. 8 tackles from his 11 touches, and it was a night where we needed that heat, and he brought it. That pressure and that contest around the ball was really important. I love the way Brody Kemp's playing at the moment. Some people said he played on Mitch Georgiadis. I don't think that was the case. I thought McGovern played on Georgiadis for most of the night, and Kemp actually touched up Marshall. That's what I thought. Maybe there was some crossovers. Excellent and early. Love to see him get on the scoreboard, which he did. He's had two really good games in a row. Kennedy quiet for most of the game until the last quarter. I feel like he's been pushed out a little bit with Chincotta coming on ball, so he's spending a fair bit of time forward of centre, which is not necessarily his go. I think he's probably a pure midfielder and needs that time in the centre. So he's quiet, but he did have some moments late in the game. McGovern kicked a goal late, which was important, took some nice marks, but a pretty quiet night overall. I felt like if he was playing on Mitch Georgiadis, that Georgiadis probably had the better of him. McKay, Big Harry was super game again. That one little moment in the third quarter, I think it was Chincotta who kicked it. Was it Chincotta who snapped the goal and it rolled into the goal square? Was it going through for a goal and Harry tried to pick it up and he sort of fumbled it and blah, blah, blah. But great game. 3 goals, 14 disposals, fucking super hard on the lead, up the ground, 6 marks. Had a great tussle with him and Alir. I thought the 2 big key tussles were great viewing. And I thought they were great viewing. If it was Alir on McKay and Radaglia on Charlie, I thought, it was a fantastic contest. Owies didn't hit the scoreboard, had a few little moments here or there. It's probably a game that he'd probably look at and go, I would have loved to have had, a few more moments. Had a couple of goal assists, which were important. Sardoff thought worked beautifully after half-time. A little bit slow to start the game, but once he got motoring, it became so important with his closing speed and just his ability to get that ball forward and a really steady head late in the game. Walsh just worked his arsehole off. I know there's some criticism of his kicking. I think it's warranted. I really do. But he's had 13 tackles with those 34 disposals. The fucking bloke's a machine. He's an absolute machine. He just needs a little bit of Mr. Sheen at the moment, just a little bit of a polish to work on his ball use, because if he can get that part of his game going, watch out in the second half of the season. Wiedering just destroyed Charlie Dixon, who's given us headaches in the past. It's a really solid performance. And Zachy Williams, what more can you say? He's providing that. He's providing that extra person down in our front half. Not necessarily the pure small forward, but the bloke can take a mark and a little bit of X factor, a bit of cheekiness. And he looks like he's loving what he's doing and kicked some super important goals for us last night. He kicked 3, that's 7 in 2 weeks. And he probably should have kicked 4 last night. That's how important he was, and I love these celebrations. Anyway, guys, I couldn't be happier. I really couldn't. I thought it was just a complete, perfect performance by a football team, and fuck, what a big one we got against the Bombers on, I think it's Sunday, isn't it? At the G. Oh, it's just going to be huge. Speak soon.